The Rangers put their lines in a blender. They lose 3-2 to the St. Louis Blues. Mika Zibanejad gets benched, sort of, and Kaapo Kakko is a healthy scratch for some reason. We got a lot to talk about.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1205 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And special announcement here about the college football playoffs. The college football playoff is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The college football playoff presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So another Ranger game, which basically at this point means another Ranger loss. They are now 3-10 in their last 13 games. They have played every bit as bad over that stretch as the record would suggest, possibly even worse, if that's even possible. But a lot to talk about here. We are going to get to the healthy scratching of Kaapo Kakko and why I just did not agree with that decision and still do not agree with that decision. I'm going to be talking about Mika Zibanejad and his reduced ice time and just continued lackluster play. And also going to kick off today's episode here by talking about the new Ranger lineup, the new line combinations, couple of guys in and out of the lineup, the new defense pairings, and just kind of breaking down the thought process behind those lines. I'm going to give you my thoughts on all those lines, on all those defense pairings, so on and so forth. And it's funny because in the last episode, I threw out the idea, and I was only half serious when I said this, but there was definitely some truth to it. I threw out the idea of putting everybody's name in a hat and just picking them out of the hat one at a time, and that's your lineup for the next game. Those are your line combinations. The first 3 forwards that you take, that's the first line. They get first line minutes. Second line gets second line minutes, so on and so forth. I was only, like I said, half serious, but apparently Peter Laviolette, either is an avid listener of Locked On New York Rangers or more likely, he was completely serious about doing this. He had finally seen enough, and he just said, you know what? I'm going to go in a completely different direction here today. Now, I don't think that he picked the names out of a hat, but I do think that he obviously made some changes, some wholesale changes to try to jolt this team, snap these guys out of it, try to catch lightning in a bottle in some way. And I think he was completely justified in doing it. Like I said, the only thing he did that I was not a fan of that we will discuss later in greater detail was the healthy scratching of Kaapo Kakko. But as far as looking at these line combinations, you start with a top line, left to right of Will Cuylle, Filip Chytil, and Alexis Lafreniere. Given the fact that Artemi Panarin was out of this lineup with an upper body injury, I think these are probably the 3 guys that you want to go with on the top line right now. These are the 3 guys that probably should be getting top line minutes. Now, Lafreniere has not been great at all lately. Let's get that out of the way. I do think this was one of the better games that he's played in a while. But at a certain point, you have to fill out the lineup somewhere or somehow. Cuylle and Chytil, to me, have been all season the 2 most consistent Ranger forwards, the 2 hardest working New York Ranger forwards, and the 2 guys in this lineup, the only 2 guys in this lineup, really, that I think were worthy of a significant promotion, and we saw them get it here, moving from the third line up to the top line. And this line did have some good looks. They were working hard in the offensive zone, couple of puck battles that they actually won. We haven't seen much of that from the Rangers recently. A couple of rushes into the zone where I thought it looked like they at least had a couple of good chances, some decent passing. Overall, not bad at all from this line. Will Cuylle ended up scoring a goal. And it was funny seeing Cuylle score that goal and get all fired up. And he's skating to the Ranger bench. And he's kind of doing the arm motion like, come on, let's keep it going. Will Cuylle showed more leadership in 20 seconds there than we've seen from a lot of the Rangers that wear letters, the entire season. So that was interesting as well. But I like this line. I had fun watching them at least. And I would imagine that the 3 of them will stay together. Now, Panarin being back in the lineup, that could change things possibly, but honestly, I would leave these 3 guys together for the next game. I thought this was the Rangers' best line on this night. Second line, left to right, Brodzinski back in the lineup, Trocheck and Smith. I don't know. I mean, nothing terrible by this line, but nothing very noteworthy either. Riley Smith has got to be the most just there player that I have ever seen on the New York Rangers. He just leaves no impression. It's not even that he's out there. Like we've talked about how certain players are showing a complete lack of hustle. I don't even really know if it's that with Smith. It's just a complete lack of impact. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything good. He doesn't do anything bad. we do crossover episodes on Locked On Rangers with the other Locked On NHL teams every now and then. Anytime there's like a trade and, we bring in a player or the Rangers trade away a player to another team, we'll do a crossover and find out more about, the player that the Rangers acquired. Or if they trade Riley Smith, I'd be telling whichever team he goes to, I'd be telling their host more about what he is as a player. I don't even know what to say. Like, he just leaves no impact. He's just the most just there player that I have ever seen on this Ranger team. They have bigger problems than Riley Smith right now. But again, the guy just leaves zero impression. Third line, Berard, Mika, and VZ. It wasn't too long ago that they put Mika Zibanejad on the Rangers' second line, or what was listed as the second line. They had him between Cuylle and Brett Berard at that time. And I think the thinking there was like, let's put him with two grinders and see if they can try to snap him out of his funk. Trying to rely on the inexperienced guys, a rookie in Brett Berard to drag the $8.5 million center to some relevance. But they kind of tried the same thing here, or at least that's what it looks like. He was once again with Brett Berard, and this time it's with Jimmy Vesey, who was back into the lineup. And Vesey obviously known for playing kind of a grinding style. This line didn't really do much of anything, though, and Mika Zibanejad ended up with the lowest time on the ice as a member of the New York Rangers, excluding games in which he sustained an injury. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit here as well. We're just getting warmed up on Mika Zibanejad and everything that happened there. Then you've got a fourth line of Edstrom, Carrick, and Kreider. Kreider's exactly where he should be. I think at this point, it only made sense that Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider both had to come out of the top six. These guys, this was the 30th game of the season. These guys were given basically 29 chances to get it right, to show some kind of life, to show some kind of fight, to show some kind of spark, to show some kind of offensive prowess at 5v5. They just haven't been able to do it, or have done it very, very, very infrequently at best. It's just been a whole lot of nothing, and the two of them had to drop down in the lineup, and both of them did. So yeah, that's what happens. And with Kreider, they didn't even let him stay at left wing. They made him move to right wing to accommodate the other fourth liners. Think about that. You could have very easily moved Edstrom from left wing to right wing, but they left Edstrom in his spot. You can move. I think Carrick plays some wing, if I'm not mistaken. I think he has in the past, and I know Edstrom has played some center, so you could have put Edstrom at center, Carrick at right wing, left Kreider at his normal spot of left wing. The Rangers didn't even do that for Kreider, and they shouldn't. He doesn't deserve any kind of special treatment right now with the way that he's played recently. So, yep, those are the line combinations. As far as the deep pairings, Lindgren and Fox, man, like, these two together just makes me sad at this point, because I used to love this pairing, man. This was a big-time pairing for the New York Rangers when they first were put together. Obviously, two young kids, both coming up in the NHL, both exceeding expectations early in their NHL careers. Fox was a very highly thought of player, and I think a lot of people believe that he would eventually be, a very impactful Ranger, but it happened almost immediately. And Lindgren was, a very worthy defense partner to Adam Fox. I thought they complemented each other very well. They're good friends away from the rink. There was a lot to like there, just a lot of fun. Fox bringing the dynamic play and the offensive play, and Lindgren giving you that old school snarl and the hard hitting and everything. This pairing is just a shell of what it used to be. Lindgren is a liability every time he's on the ice, and Fox looks like he's on autopilot as much as any player on this team does right now. So, man, I see them in the lineup, and you want to maybe split them up, but it's I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, because then you have different pairings, and these pairings are no better. So I don't know. I guess Laviolette's just going to keep trying to let these guys figure it out, but it hasn't happened thus far. You've got Jones and Schneider. These two both played better than the vast majority of Ranger defensemen. I don't think they've been really all that great lately, though. We saw Zach Jones got caught in really deep on a goal scored by the Blues in this game, the one that made it 3-0. The Blues were going the other way on a rush, and Zach Jones is like in the Blues crease for some reason. And Schneider's the one guy back, and he's trying to defend, and he goes down to the ice because that's what every Ranger defenseman does. Schneider, to be fair, at least took away the pass. And who was it? It was, I believe, Thomas that took the shot and beat Quick clean on that one. So that made it 3-0. But yeah, that's, the two of them, like I said, they have played better than other Ranger defensemen, but it obviously has not been good for them or really anybody recently. And then you've got this third pairing of guys who are essentially AHLers at this point, between Connor Mackey and Chad Ruedel. This is where things are for the Rangers right now. This is how far we've sunk, and this is how low we've gotten. I saw this pairing, and I actually got kind of excited about it, because on one hand, you want Mancini out there, you want him to take the reins, and you want him to establish himself in the lineup, but he hasn't played well recently either. There might be kind of a situation now where he's not quite ready for prime time, and that's okay. He's a 22-year-old fifth-round draft pick. Maybe he's got some more developing to do, but I see this pairing here, Mackey and Ruedel, and it's like, okay, two kind of like underdog players here, couple of veterans. Maybe Laviolette wanted to go with a more veteran lineup to just try to stabilize everything on the blue line. We saw Connor Mackey get into a fight in his last game. We saw him mixing it up with somebody in front of the Ranger net early in this game. Ruedel, again, played decent hockey the 5 games that he spent in the Ranger lineup last season. This is only his second game of this season. But it's like, as a Ranger fan right now, you're just trying to grab onto anything. You're trying to like get behind any player or, hey, this is kind of fun or this is kind of cool or, okay, that guy's at least hustling or skating hard. You're looking for anything. And I look at this, veteran defense pairing and it's like, I hope these guys do well. Everybody else has gotten enough chances, Trouba obviously got traded, but he got a million chances. Keandre Miller got a million chances. He's hurt right now, but the point remains the same. Fox and Lindgren are out there every game. Lindgren's having a horrendous turnover in this game. Doesn't cost him a single second of his ice time. It gets to a point where it's like, yeah, go Mackey, go Ruedel. Let's see what these two can do together. And that's where we're at right now as a fan base. We're just trying to grab onto anything that's fun or interesting or cool or anything likable about this team right now. So again, with the lineup, one of the things that really stood out, obviously Panarin's not in there. They say it's an upper body injury. I know there's a couple conspiracy theorists that maybe they're looking to trade him. I don't think anything's impossible at this point. He would obviously have to waive his no move clause. But the two players that were noteworthy as healthy scratches were Mancini and Kakko. We already talked about Mancini. Like I said, maybe needs a little bit more seasoning. That's at least possible. Kakko, we're going to talk more about him in just a second. We've got basically an entire section on Kaapo Kakko, and we will get to that in just a minute here. So stay tuned for that. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Bilt Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Bilt, you can now earn points on rent payments, just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with some serious perks, and it is completely free to join. Earn valuable Bilt points on your rent and every day, spending at no extra cost. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Bilt members. Redeem points for flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are absolutely endless. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnhl. Make sure to use our link so they know we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is also brought to you by Select Quote. The World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. You invest so much time to take care of yourself and to be the healthiest, best version of you. Select Quote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. If you are in good health, they work with carriers that could get you same-day coverage for up to $5 billion. No medical exam is required. Select Quote, they shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That is selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. Huge shout out to the everydayers for putting up with this nonsense that the Rangers are putting us through on a night in and night out basis here. But here's what I'm thinking for this week. I'm thinking in the next episode, we'll put one more out before the Rangers play the Predators on Tuesday. And assuming that nobody gets fired or traded between now and then, which might be kind of a large assumption at this point. But if that does not happen, I think we're going to take a look at captain options and alternate captain options for next season. I tweeted out about this last night, and just got to give everybody a fair trial and see who deserves to be wearing the letters next year, because I think it could look quite a bit different, especially if the Rangers continue to go down this road. But for today, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. Kaapo Kakko was a healthy scratch for this game. I don't like it. Kakko, I don't think, has played great recently, but nobody on this team has, with the possible exceptions being Will Cuylle and Filipino. Show me anybody that's been a net positive for this team over the last handful of games besides those two. Brett Berard, you could maybe throw him in there, especially if you're grading on the curve that he is a fifth-round rookie with less than 10 games of NHL experience. But that's about it. There aren't too many that have really played all that well. And I would say Kakko is at least trying. I mean, again, that's where we're at right now. We're giving points for trying, right? But I would say he's putting in a better effort than at least 75% of his teammates. I tweeted that out last night as well. I would have scratched any of the following players before Kakko. And the list is not limited to these names, but these are kind of the go-to names right now. In terms of sending a message, in terms of shaking things up a little bit, I would have certainly scratched Mika before Kakko. I would have scratched Kreider before Kakko. Riley Smith, wouldn't have had any problem scratching him again. Jimmy Vesey, nothing really against him, but he's kind of your 13th forward at this point. And I'd rather have Kakko in the lineup than Vesey at this point. Adam Fox is another one, completely just on autopilot, like right now, like I've been talking about. And then there's probably more than that, but those are just the names that, I had to mention right here. And the funny thing too, like when I list these players and I mentioned like, okay, Mika and Kreider and Fox, all these high paid players with letters on their sweater, the guys that are supposed to be the leaders of this team, when I say that they should be scratched before Kakko, I'm not doing it because, like, okay, well, they're the veterans. They're the ones wearing letters. They're the ones making the big bucks. All those things are absolutely true, but take all that away. Just take their status away, take their veteran status away. Forget about the fact that they're alternate captains. Forget about the fact that they're mainstays in this Ranger lineup. Forget about the fact that they have big contracts and they're making a lot of money every single season. Just from a hockey perspective, take all that away and just look at every single one of these players on this Ranger team as if they're all making the same amount of money, as if they're all the same age. They've all been in the NHL for the same amount of time. Those are still the guys that deserve to be scratched right now based on what they're putting forth on a game in and game out basis. So I just wanted to point that out as well. I'm not just like looking at it in terms of, well, this guy makes this much money or this guy. The last game, we saw Zach Jones pinch when he really should not have, and it results in a 2-on-1 the other way, and the Rangers give up a goal. Mistake by Zach Jones, and in theory, I don't have a problem with Jones missing a couple shifts as he did in the last game. Where I have a problem with it, though, is when he has to pay that price, but other players don't. And that was kind of like a minor example, because it's not like Jones was glued to the bench the rest of the game, and it's not like, they scratched him in the next game or anything like that. But what they did do is they scratched Kaapo Kakko. So this basically is the Jones situation in the last game, but it's amplified to the nth degree because Kakko didn't get to play at all. He didn't even get to dress for this game. And speaking of double standards, to kind of illustrate my point even further here, I mentioned this for just a brief second in the last section. I didn't see Ryan Lindgren get benched last night. Did you? After that god-awful play? I saw a really funny comment on Twitter, calling out Ryan Lindgren because Lindgren after the last game was talking about how, we got to compete better and we got to win these 50-50 pucks. And somebody pointed out the fact that the puck that he lost here was not a 50-50 puck. It was a 95-5 puck in favor of Ryan Lindgren, and he still lost it. You guys know what play I'm talking about. Anybody that watched this game, this was the goal that made it 2-0 in favor of the Blues. But Lindgren's going back to get the puck. It's heading toward the Ranger blue line, and he picks it up, and he turns around. I don't know what he was doing, trying to pass maybe. And Kyrou takes the puck away, goes in alone, and scores the goal. And Lindgren, after this happens, doesn't miss a shift, doesn't see any reduction in ice time. You look at the time on the ice after this game among the Ranger defensemen, Ryan Lindgren was second on the Rangers in terms of time on the ice. All players, not just D-men. I mean, defensemen are naturally going to get more ice time, but he was second on the Rangers in ice time at 21:58. The only Ranger that had more time on the ice than Ryan Lindgren was Adam Fox. Now, granted, it's not like they have a whole bunch of much better options on the blue line right now, but Zach Jones had to pay for it the other night. Why didn't Ryan Lindgren have to pay for it here? This is a worse play here than I think what Zach Jones made. And I got to point this out too. Laviolette mentioned this during one of the breaks. This was certainly on Ryan Lindgren. Chris Kreider deserves some blame for this as well, because as Lindgren's going to get this puck, you see Kreider kind of trailing the play and just drifting, not even skating, just drifting backward. and toward the Rangers zone. And Laviolette mentioned that Kreider should have been yelling to Lindgren in this situation, reverse, to let him know, okay, you got somebody there, play it off the boards to me. Send the puck off the boards and I'll pick it up. And that would have been a fairly easy play to execute here, because Kyrou had already committed. He's going to pressure Lindgren. Lindgren goes off the boards here to go right to Kreider. He can pick it up and start the rush back up the ice, hopefully for the Rangers. But that never happened. Kreider never said a word. You can see, watch the replay. Kreider never says anything. There's no communication, and not letting Lindgren off the hook at all here, but, Kreider bears some responsibility for this as well. But the bottom line, no accountability for Ryan Lindgren, despite this atrocious turnover that he had here. The other thing that's crazy to me, getting back to Kakko here, about, him ending up as a healthy scratch for this game, is you can make a very strong case, and I would say the correct case, that the best Ranger line all season through the first 30 games here has been Cuylle, Chytil, and Kakko. I know Chytil missed some time, obviously, the upper body injury, and he was out for a little while there, but I think, early in the season, even when the Rangers were playing well, even when they were firing on all cylinders, this is the most effective, most well-rounded line on the New York Rangers. Again, have they been quite as good lately? No, but nobody on this team has. And I do think, Cuylle and Chytil have been the Rangers' two best forwards, even through all these, miserable games that the Rangers have been playing recently. But think about this situation here, okay? So think about what I just said. This is arguably the best line for the Rangers all season. Laviolette before this game decides, okay, I'm going to promote two of these guys. They're going to go from the third line to the top line, and I would say rightfully so. I think Cuylle and Chytil have certainly earned that, so I agree with that decision by Peter Laviolette. But then how do you also come to the conclusion that the third guy on that line, Kaapo Kakko, not only does he not get a promotion of any kind, he gets healthy scratched? Like, really? This has been the Rangers' best line. They have outscored their opponents. This trio has outscored its opponents 13-2 when they're on the ice together this season. And I do think Chytil and Cuylle are the two leading the charge, but Kakko obviously has a hit in that. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And how do you come to this conclusion that, okay, we're going to promote two of them, we're going to, ramp up their ice time, they're going to be out there in some big spots, not the biggest spot, more on that in a second, but they're going to be out there in some big spots, but Kaapo Kakko, he doesn't even get to play. Very, very strange. Now, of course, this also begs the question, and a lot of people speculated about this on social media last night. Is it possible that the reason for this, Kaapo Kakko being a healthy scratch, is that a trade could be in the works? I've got mixed feelings on this. Like a lot of trades, I think it probably depends on the return. But I look at the way the Rangers have played recently, how some of the quote-unquote star players have played on this team, and I just don't like the idea of Kaapo Kakko being made the scapegoat. I think Kakko, throughout the years, you could say he's underachieved. You could say he hasn't lived up to the hype of being the number 2 overall pick. I think that's more than fair to say at this point, especially now that this is year 6 of Kaapo Kakko with the New York Rangers. But Kakko has never made any excuses. He's never begged, off the ice. He's never requested a trade or anything like that. You look at his end of season presser last season, and he talks about how he wants to be here. He loves New York. He loves the city. He loves the fans. He loves his teammates. He loves winning. All those things, right? And he also took some accountability because he said at the end of the season last year when he's being interviewed, and of course he didn't have a contract at that time. He was an RFA with arbitration rights, and they agreed on a 1-year extension. But he said, I can't sit here and say that I didn't get any opportunities this past season because at the start of last year, Kakko was on the top line with Mika Zibanejad and Kreider. Got some decent run there. Eventually, they go to Blake Wheeler. They go back to Kakko. And then there's a million other players that ended up having a chance with Kreider and Mika. But obviously, nothing ever really clicked. But again, there's accountability from Kaapo Kakko. And I actually believe that. I think he's being very genuine when he says that he loves New York. He says he loves the fans. He says he wants to be here. He says he wants to win. He enjoys the winning. So him being the scapegoat, that just does not sit right with me right now. Now, I will say this. It's possible if a trade is in the works, maybe the reason you look to trade Kakko first before making some really big moves is you're looking to establish what the return price would be for a player like Kaapo Kakko before you go on to possibly trading. I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but before you go out and trade somebody like Chris Kreider or like Adam Fox, you establish kind of a floor as far as what the return should be by trading somebody like Kaapo Kakko. Because if you go out there, you trade Kaapo Kakko and say you get a second-round pick in return for Kaapo Kakko. Okay, well, now we're going to trade Kreider. You got to come with more than a second-round pick. We need a first-round pick and maybe something else as well. That's at least possible. You kind of start at the bottom of the roster and you work your way up in terms of, what you can get. And the other thing that's going on right now is the Rangers seem to be one of the only teams that's actually open for business when it comes to trades. So maybe Drury in the front office are trying to take advantage of that. They're trying to move guys now while nobody else is really making any kind of deals. I looked up on the NHL trade tracker right before I hit record here. There have only been 4 trades made in the month of December, and one of them, of course, was Jacob Trouba. So maybe the Rangers feel like they can, create a little bit of a seller's market if they are going to sell off some of these pieces here. And one way to do that is to start with Kakko, and then again work your way up to some of the bigger names and some of the guys that have had more of an impact over the years than Kakko has. That's at least possible as well. But I hated this. I hated the fact that Kaapo Kakko was the healthy scratch for this game. Didn't think it was deserved at all. Like I said, we'll see if a trade is coming. It's at least possible. Yeah, we'll see. But in just a second, going to shift our attention to Mika Zibanejad sort of kind of getting benched and just a bizarre late game decision from Peter Laviolette. We will get to that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's go ahead and put a bow on what was just, again, fantastic performance by the Rangers in St. Louis last night. So Mika Zibanejad sort of got benched in this game. Never got to the point where he was completely glued to the bench, but in the third period, he only had 3 shifts until the very end of the game when the Rangers pulled their goalie looking for the equalizer. And we'll get to that decision in just a second. But I do want to share a couple of stats. Again, these were kicking around on social media. Some of you probably already saw them. But just to illustrate exactly where we're at with Mika Zibanejad and put this in perspective as far as this basically being rock bottom for him ever since he's been a member of the New York Rangers. These are the numbers on Mika Zibanejad coming out of this game. He ended up with 13 minutes and 4 seconds of ice time in this game. This is his lowest time on the ice since October 27th, 2019. And he left that game early due to an injury. So obviously we can't even really count that one because if you get hurt, you get hurt. Your ice time is not going to be what it would normally be, obviously. The only Rangers with less ice time last night than Mika Zibanejad, there were 2. Adam Edstrom, Jimmy Vesey. That's it. Mika Zibanejad was given less ice time than a young player like Will Cuylle, who obviously has earned more ice time. He was given less ice time than Brett Berard, who has not even played 10 NHL games left. Yeah, former 5th round pick for the Rangers. Less ice time than career journeyman Johnny Brodzinski. Less ice time than other career journeyman Sam Carrick. All those guys had more ice time than Mika Zibanejad. And you know what? It's 100% justified. It's 100% deserved. That's where things are at with Mika Zibanejad. A lot of those players I just mentioned, they're giving you an honest effort. I think Sam Carrick goes out there, plays the 4th line center role completely fine. Johnny Brodzinski got back into the lineup. I mean, took a penalty in the offensive zone. Didn't really like that. He didn't really stand out that much, but at least with Johnny, he's going to be zipping around the ice and using his speed. And, Mika just looks comatose out there for just about every single shift. So I think this was completely deserved, completely justified. And I want to set the stage now for a decision that Peter Laviolette made late in this game. Keep in mind, the Rangers, again, they're on their way to another just miserable loss. They have less than 10 minutes to go in this game. They're down by 3 goals, and the kids get them back into the game. The goal that made it 3-1, it's funny, this goal was almost set up by a Lindgren turnover. In a way, it kind of was. Lindgren had the puck in the neutral zone and coughed it up. I know that's a shocker right now, but he coughed up the puck. Rangers somehow got it back. Basically just kind of took a fortuitous bounce. But you've got Smith passing over to Trocheck. Trocheck shot is blocked, and the puck is loose in the offensive zone, kind of around like the top of the left circle there, right? So the 2 closest players on the ice are both players on the Blues. They're both going to get it. Out of nowhere, coming into your screen, here's Brett Berard looking like he was shot out of a cannon. He goes and essentially passes the puck to himself. He basically tipped the puck ahead away from the St. Louis defenders, ran it down, got to it, and flicked a shot at the net and got it by the goalie. Maybe a little bit of a soft goal, but this is all Berard. This was him hustling. And a lot of times when you hustle like this and you show this kind of energy and this kind of, competitive fight, you will get rewarded by the hockey gods every once in a while. And he earned this here. like I said, he beat two different Blues players to the puck, essentially passed it to himself and scored clean on this play to get them back into the game a little bit. You look at other Ranger forwards right now. Do you think Chris Kreider is going to make a play like this right now? Do you think Mika Zibanejad is going to make a play like this right now? You can kind of go up and down the roster. You can count on one hand the amount of Rangers that are going to make a play like Brett Berard made on this play right now. Just a great, individual effort by Berard. And like I said, before he ever debuted, my prediction that he was going to be a very popular Ranger. I think we're seeing that manifest itself pretty quickly here. Okay, so then there's the goal that cuts it down to 3-2. A hardworking blue-collar shift by the Rangers. Who would have thunk it, man? Chytil, Cuylle, and Lafreniere out there working very hard on this play. You had Chytil powering his way to the net and puts his shot off the side of the net. Lafreniere recovers the puck. He gets it back to Mackey. Mackey over to Ruhwedel. Shot goes wide. Mackey and Lafreniere both working hard along the boards to get to the puck and try to get possession for the Rangers. And then Chytil behind the net. He gets the puck. He took a check, did Chytil, but he kind of bounced off of it. And then he passes in front. Will Cuylle is there, and Will Cuylle scores. And like I said, that was the moment in the game where Cuylle showed more leadership than a lot of the Ranger veterans have all season. He was all fired up. He's yelling. He's tapping all his teammates up when they come over to him. And then when he goes to the bench for the congratulations, he's doing the hand motion. Like, come on, boys, let's keep it going. Let's go here. You just don't see that stuff from the players that should be showing it right now. So good on this line, and good on Cuylle for finishing here, and good on Cuylle showing a little bit of fire. Then we get to the end of the game, and you would think, based on everything we saw, and we did see reduced ice time for Mika Zibanejad, so that's step one. But you would think that the Rangers would go to some of the guys that got them back into this game. No Will Cuylle, and this is even with Artemi Panarin out of the lineup. So there's an extra spot out there as far as which 6 players are going to be on the ice. No Will Cuylle, no Brett Berard. It's like those plays never even happened. Forget about the goals. How about just the effort that those guys showed on that play? The effort that basically has them skating circles around most of the Ranger teammates. Nope, they just go to the same 6 players that they would always go to. Obviously, Panarin wasn't there, but they go with Chytil instead, and that's fine going with Chytil. But yeah, I mean, you've got the same guys that they would normally go to, despite the fact that when you look at this team over the season here, they have not scored a goal with their goalie pulled the entire season. And they haven't really been all that close. They've never gotten that game-tying goal, but they just go to the same guys and the same results here. They don't end up scoring. If Will Cuyle's out there, maybe they score. Brett Berard's out there, maybe they score. If nothing else, they've at least earned the opportunity. Like I said, this is game number 30. Everybody else has had their chances. They've had their opportunities at this kind of a spot in the game. They haven't taken advantage of it. So it's time to turn the page and give somebody else a chance, especially when Cuylle and Berard give you the kind of efforts that they gave you in this game. But got to call it there. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, it's lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. And definitely give us a follow on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks as always. We will see you next time.